Hi, good evening, all. This is Vishal Singhal from Statstrat, your host for today. So we have Dr. Anand Malingam, who's a PhD in strategy management. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Anand. Uh, but he's also head of AI with a company called InnoCirc Ventures, and he's doing some great work. He's also part of our AI lab at Statstrat, and is a continuous researcher in healthcare AI. So I'm always asking him to take more and more sessions, but he found time, I think, last to last month, and his webinar went very well and with lots of views as well as lot of audience. Probably more will be joining soon on this one as well. And uh, after a lot of back and forth, I was able to convince him for this session today. And even today, he says that there is so much of content that he will be taking another session maybe in a month or two. So I'll transfer the controls to Dr. Anand. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you so much for your kind words and introduction. I think Self-Study is doing wonderful job for the AI community in terms of developing more and more AI engineers, data scientists, and AI business professionals. I'm sure it is one among the notable community in India, in fact across globe, working on cutting edge AI research. So I think people should know there are a lot of internal teams operating within Self-Study and different categories, taking the different domains like healthcare, fintech, manufacturing, and all, and they pick up various challenges and AI projects in the real-time environment. I think that is the one valuable thing. It provides opportunity for both learners as well as the industry professionals to deliver projects. So I appreciate it. And once again, thank you, Vishal, and thank you, Vivek, for this opportunity to meet with the AI enthusiastic. And thank you all participants for joining this busy Monday evening, where there is a thin line between work and home, right? In the work from home era, whether we never know, like whether we are still in the office mode or we have come to home, because that's the status. So thank you all for joining. So I work for a company called InnoCirc Ventures Private Limited, and the brand name of InnoCirc is My Healthcare. My Healthcare is one of the leading healthcare brand in India, and we do a lot of healthcare applications for enterprise customers, mainly into the hospital management in terms of IPD and OPD, inpatient and outpatient, and EMR, EHR, and the idea is, how do we make the patients easily access the healthcare services, starting from search and looking for a doctors, and then choosing the right department or right the treatment methods and all those things, and up to the post care. So the application should provides the entire range of different modules to cover the patient's journey. So that is our business. In that, we see where and all artificial intelligence can make an impact, right? So we always look for what AI can do in different departments, different domains. It can be using computer vision, it can be using a simple machine learning or analytics or NLP. So we always look for opportunity wherever it is possible. We try to naturally fit this artificial intelligence solution to the existing portfolio. Because we have the artificial intelligence division, we don't want to generate products. Instead, we see the requirement of the patients, particularly because they are the users, and again the healthcare professionals, because we need to make both of their life easier. That is our simple objective. So with that, always we look for it, and we develop applications. I can name few because certain things are in the development, so I can discuss that in a separate session. Apart from the EMR, EHR, and OPD, IPD settings, we do specifically in AI division, we work for Parkinson disease. Parkinson disease, I'm sure like most of you know, it is a neurodegenerative disease where this patient will have movement disorders. Once the patient is having a Parkinson disease, means they will have a movement disorder and they cannot freely walk. In fact, they cannot get up from the chair. So their hands and legs will become rigid. So the idea is like how early we can detect the Parkinson disease, because how if you could detect early, you can start the medication early and it will have a less impact on the on the patient, and then they will have a better chance to recover. So our idea of Parkinson disease with AI is like we wanted to early detect and then assist during the treatment. So we picked up both areas, like how we can detect the Parkinson disease, and then during the treatment how we can help patients to better receive the treatment from the doctors. We for detecting the Parkinson disease, we followed multiple methods because there is no single method to detect it, because certain patients will have certain symptoms. So we wanted to cover some multiple areas. So in brief, we have used computer vision and for detecting the walking, that is movement of the patient, that we in the medical term they call it as a gait analysis. So it is like we take a video of a patient, the way they are walking. From that we pick up the clues using computer vision, gait analysis, and then we detect. Similarly, the facial expressions, because the Parkinson patients will have less facial expressions and they cannot express either they are happy or sorrow. So we used facial recognition, and then we try to understand what stages of the Parkinson disease they are in, and using the voice and using a finger tapping, because again, as I said, it's a degenerative disease. The hand and finger movement also will be a problem. So we found a certain way to ask the patient to tap the phone, wherein with that we used to identify the Parkinson disease. That's what I said. If you go deeper, it's that itself it will take a session. So that is one of the important thing. And then we do a lot of activities on the natural language processing, because as I said, InnerSec or My Healthcare objective is to enhance the patient experience, at the same time the doctor's experience as well. So
have you changed the slides, because it is not visible?
No, I'm not changed.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe if people are getting bored, I'll change the slide. This is a generic slide again. So
that's fine. I was thinking you are okay. Go ahead.
No, yeah, and we do a lot of that's what I said, NLP things. So because when we introduce a lot of lots and lots of software applications for doctors as well as the healthcare professional, nurses and other pharmacists, the data entry, or how do we manage the data through various fields, that will become a biggest problem. So wherever possible, we use speech recognition services, so that the speech to text, so that becomes it's a seamless experience for the doctors to understand patient issues, symptoms, and then it naturally they tend to follow the all the fields, because It is no more typing. It can be through speech to text. So speech to text, normal, we know normal speech to text. This is into the medical field, so a lot of complexities in terms of understanding the medicine names and disease names and all those things. So we are working on that, and in fact, we have done early implementations. So that's all with that. There are other things like remote monitoring. Again, we will talk about when we talk about that, we can go deeper into that. So now the situation is COVID situation, so we need to manage patients from their home itself. And then how do we do that? Yes, we can do a video call and understand, we can talk to them, but how do we get their vitals? So that's where, and then how continuously we monitor and how do we understand their trend? So all these things are possible through remote monitoring. We have solutions and we started implementing, rolling out in major hospitals. So that is also happening. So these are all the areas we are working in with UNOSEC. I'll move to the. We'll talk about why we need AI in healthcare, because healthcare is one of the very oldest domain. So it is there. Then why we need an AI? Why suddenly? What is the drivers for AI and applications? I think it's a n number of applications are there. I think I expect, like I assume that the AI practitioner are a business professionals who are interested into the AI, are the healthcare professionals. The three set of people, all the three set of people are, they are exposed to so much of from the media about what are all the different AI applications are there. So we will touch base those things, but and then it's a challenges, like it is not a smooth journey, right? So it's not a magic. You can't say that yes, it's AI and done. Definitely you will have a challenges, because implementing AI in finance or a manufacturing or any other domain is definitely different for healthcare, because this is playing with the people lives. So there are definitely challenges related to healthcare domain, and then we are all into this business, so we need to understand saying that no, being just we are entering into the domain or an experienced professional, or we have a domain expert in the business and then now entering into this field, particularly AI in healthcare. So if you wanted to start a business, if I want to start as a vendor or a partner or a programmer, whatever it is, so we need to understand saying that how does it work? What is the best strategy? Because when we learn from others, it becomes easier for us to quickly succeed. That we'll see. And that's what I said, Vishal said, like we will see, like we will understand from the users. Maybe Q&A session will do more, where we will take questions, we'll understand saying that what area we wanted to go deeper and all those things, then we can discuss. So we'll talk about it. I think this is a kind of a framework, like what is healthcare AI, or what are the components of it. I don't say it's a 35,000 feet. Let us understand, maybe this is a 20,000 feet, not a very macro level or not in a very deep dive. It's in between. So this is an idea. So once again, welcome to this session.
So one question is already there, Doc.
Okay.
The question is, can you tell us what features you targeted in speech analysis for a Parkinson's patient?
Okay. We'll cover that, Vishal, at the end of the session.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for that question. We'll cover definitely. So this is my healthcare AI. We talked about it. So we know the world population is 7.7 billion as on date, and where it is going to end up 8.5 billion 2030. And the statistic says that among the 7.7 billion and the projection of 8.5 billion, the aged in this, let us have a standard of 65 and above, are higher than the aged 5 years and below. That means aged 65 and above, they are consisting of around 1.5 billion people. We'll talk about it, why this is a problem. And then if you look at it, the right hand side, we are all going through this pain, COVID-19. It's not only pain, we are surviving, like we are fighting with it, and now we learn to live with it. COVID-19 pandemic. There are so many other pandemic, but this is, I think, in this entire century, I think this is the one of the biggest one we all might have seen. So it's still going on. We do not know. And if you look at the top right hand side, the top 10 causes of death across the globe, this is the Deloitte report. It is not with something else. This is the top 10 causes of death is due to the smoking, obesity, hypertension, poor diet, lack of physical activity. So what we are trying to understand from this statistics is, when you have more and more elderly people, they need a care. They definitely need a care. Somebody need to take care of them. And that too, when we say the age is beyond 65, they will start getting different ailments, some diseases and all those things. So managing the older population and providing them with the right healthcare is a point. When we say COVID-19, it is affecting hundreds and thousands of people. That is urgent care we need to provide. At the same time, we need to prevent it, and we need to look for what is this is similar kind of new diseases are going to come, how we can avoid, and all those things. All these things are like, it is not the case. Like, so this is a changing dynamics. And then when you look at the top 10 causes of death, it's a different, like poor diet, hypertension. Everybody is having a blood pressure, hypertension, obesity. People are not doing the similar way they are working. I mean, like the way how they used to work earlier, it is changing. So lack of physical activity. So all this combination lead to a question saying that, like, how are you going to manage the healthcare? Because we have to predict, and we need to handle them in a large scale, because we need to provide the care for many people. It is increased by certain percentages. So how do we manage that? That's where the question comes, saying that if you look at if we have the same, we have, right, like Einstein said, like if you try to provide a solution in the same way, we cannot achieve things. We need to think differently to find a solution for this kind of new challenges. And that's where the AI came in. We know when it started in 1950s onwards, but the recent years, I'm saying the recent years is, let us say from year 2000 onwards, it has picked up, or we are able to afford it because the computing capacity, or the memory, or the communication bandwidth, all the three parameters, these three things are very, very important parameters in terms of bringing AI to the field. Because otherwise you just think like, it is impossible to think running a deep learning algorithm in our laptop or in a cloud. Even how it is possible to run a deep learning algorithm in a cloud? Do you imagine, like in the maybe 1998 or in 2000 with a 56 kbps of internet line? Was it possible? Even the algorithm was ready. Was it possible? No. When the internet, so thanks to the internet speed, the communication bandwidth, and the computing capacity, we can collect, store, analyze a huge amount of data. Earlier, it was only possible for the big companies, maybe for IBM or HP or Microsoft. It was possible only for them. But with the advancement in the computing capacity, in the process, I'm talking about processes and the memory, storage as well as in the RAM, it has improved a lot, so that now it was easy for anybody. So more and more players came in, and then they started now getting into the business, and that's where the AI journey also started. And then, like other industry domains, like healthcare also picked up. From there only we started trying it out, the AI solutions for healthcare. And if you talk about particularly in Indian healthcare industry, this is the Accenture report. It says 957 billion by 2035. And a lot of companies are investing in AI startups. AI startups in Bangalore, startups in Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, Noida, Delhi, everywhere. So lot of investments are coming in. And there are two ways. Like, one is that traditionally entrepreneurs with ideas, they are coming in, and even big companies, they are setting up their different arm. They wanted to have a totally a different entity from as a startup company, so that this kind of modern way of development, agile way of developing solutions in AI, that was possible. So even a big companies are setting up the startup in India. So the startup ecosystem is growing. And in the healthcare industry, we can list number of companies. What are all those companies are? We know in terms of diagnosis, chest X-rays, we have so many. We know, like Aravind Hospital is trying the Google retinopathy, and Niramai is there, and Sigtable, so many other companies. In each and every talk about a particular field, we can name a company. So it is growing, because and people have understood the importance of it. So if you look at, particularly because being in India's Silicon Valley, when we talk about Karnataka and Bangalore, Karnataka government has created a Karnataka Information Technology Venture Capitalist Fund. So startup can approach them, and then they become the incubator to support. And particularly when you say that it's an AI treating for the healthcare and for the diagnosis, for disease identification, you will get a better preference in terms of looking at your proposals. And the ecosystem is good, supporting AI startups, and FICCI, the organization, also supporting Office of the Prime Minister. These are all the data when we think about what our country is doing for AI in healthcare, and particularly this Karnataka state is doing for AI in healthcare. We get all these details. And then why? What is the growth drivers? We saw that those are all the present statistics, like the aged population, or the COVID, and all those things are the statistics. Means this is the present conditions. But what makes the what is the drivers for AI in healthcare is it's increasing individual healthcare expenses. Though the modern way of diagnosing, treating is happening, but the healthcare cost is going up. And health workforce, doctors, nurses, assistants, and so many, and patients, the ratio, is it correct? No, it is less than 1. It need to be, as per the World Health Organization standard, it has to be 2.5, but we are less than 1. Is it possible to train all the doctors in the next 6 months, though we have facilities? No, it's not possible. They have to undergo 4 to 5 years, 6 years of training. So how are we going to manage this? Everywhere it is happening. It is not only one country. We could see this trend across globe, all the countries. So these are all the NAS statistics, like 1.1 million by 2020. We have a lot of vacancies. That's what we are looking for, AI as a solution, as a supporting mechanism. That's what always the problem of AI in healthcare is most of the people are, yes, they welcome the advancement, particularly the doctors community is the one, they always look for new findings. They will look for the academic side and industry side, saying that, what is the best treatment method is available, what is that happening. So they are the learning community already. So that way, when we talk about AI, they always welcome the new methodologies and all those things. But there are some hype, sometimes it goes negatively. People say that, no, AI will replace such person, AI will replace someone in the healthcare delivery. In my opinion, I feel like AI will never replace the doctors. AI will assist, so that the doctor can spend more time with the patients. So he or she will have a more time, because the regular analysis and collecting data collection, going through it all, the regular repetitive task can be automated, and then you will have a quality time available, and you will have the decision support system readily available for you to take a call, whether to go for a particular treatment, or to do a surgery and not to do a surgery, and whatever it is, you will have always a supporting mechanism available for it. So AI, particularly for healthcare, it has to be an assistant. You need to, when being a data scientist or a data engineer or business professional working in the AI domain for healthcare, we always need to think about saying that, no, how I can make my application be an assistant for the doctor. So it has to be go hand in hand. Then both the people need to work, and it has to amplify my existing skills. With the let us say that with the data analytics, I can quickly scan all the last 15 visits, or what has happened for that particular patient for 15 years, with the kind of medicines they have taken. So we can see a lot of examples, right, in the analytics, big data analytics, and with the NLP combination, and with the EMR EHR integration, you can do such wonders, by which with a fraction of, let us say, okay, in a minute you will understand, saying that, okay, this is the patient history. Else you have to collect all the files, and by going through all the file in a traditional model, it takes a longer time, but still you will undergo, you will refer the report, sometimes you will check and all those things, but you will get when a time is short, you need to handle more patients. This kind of solutions comes in handy, so that you can handle those patients easily with the solutions, AI solutions. So this is the how much the different countries across the globe they spend for healthcare. Look at US, it is 17.2% of the GDP they are spending for healthcare, and $9,892 per capita spend. So it's a huge. It just we couldn't think about the kind of cost. It's an average cost. So everywhere it is, the cost is going high, not able to manage. The workforce is less. That's where the opportunity is. And see the last column, where we can do it, like diagnostics and claims validation, because in our country we have not adopted that model, but most of the countries, particularly in the US, you will have health insurance and the claims validation is the biggest work there, and it takes longer time in a manual methods. So that's where we can think of AI, and higher waiting time, need for efficiency in archaic process. So even we can think of robotic surgery. And how do I prevent the chronic diseases if a particular region, it is due to some environmental issues or some other issues, you get a particular kind of diseases. You can easily do that in terms of using the big data and analytics. You can find out that which cluster this is trending more. You know, right? Like in Google is supporting US government in terms of identifying the disease cluster. So based on the search alone, it will identify exactly which segment, what is that trend, where it is, it is spreading. And all those things are possible. We have seen live examples. Patient safety, diagnostics, so much of options available in front of us for healthcare using artificial intelligence. Okay, something interesting for you. So I think I request Vishal to open up the chat. So you hope if you are able to recognize them, and I have given the marker like A, B, C, D. You can write A, what's the person name, B, D, and let us understand saying that no, who are all these people? It's a celebrities or sports stars or politicians, or who are they? Let us understand from the users. Vishal, can you please open the chat for a minute? Let us understand from the users. We'll expect some
chat is
responses
open.
from the people.
Chat is open. So somebody saying B Turin. B
Okay.
Alan Turing.
Okay, great.
Audience,
Thank you. Open
please
for all.
respond.
Can we
It is
see
open
that
for
on
all.
the screen? Okay.
No, I
Yeah,
will
it's
have to
open
read
for
it.
all. Okay, no problem.
So only 2 people have responded as B as Alan Turing.
Okay. So maybe we'll give another 30 seconds for the people to think about.
One
Yeah.
gentleman is saying Geoffrey Hinton as D.
Geoffrey Hinton as a D. Perfect. Okay.
No other guesses, audience?
I think this is becoming tougher. Or the people are not in a regular attire. We have a little bit changed. Data augmentation is done. So that's why I think people are not able to find. So A is Jan Licken, we know, and B is Alan Turing.
Okay.
C is Joshua, and D is Geoffrey Hinton. Okay. So these are all we can say they are the godfathers of AI. They have done a wonderful job. We are standing on
Repeat C, please. Repeat C.
C is Joshua.
Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua.
Okay.
Yeah, Benio. Yeah. So we should salute them because we are standing on the shoulders now. So we talked about it, but let me put it in a way so that people can take a note of it. It helps doctors. It assists doctors whenever there is a repetitive work. It provides empowerment to the doctors so that they are able to deliver fast, and then they can deliver more accurate decisions because you are supported with the systems. It shows the data from the thousands and 10,000s and 100,000s verifications and all those things. So you can confidently say that, yes, this is the right treatment method, or in this condition, I need to take this kind of call. Because even a doctors, they trained, but it comes with the experiences. So where complex conditions, where we need a doctor who has dealt that kind of cases, some 100 cases they should have dealt, then only they would have come to the conclusion, or they know that yes, this is there may be a chances of 1 by 100 way to treat that particular thing. You can definitely bring that knowledge in terms of decision support system, even for the younger doctor, to take advantage from it and then provide the right solution to the particular patient. That's what it is, augmenting the professionals, it offering them expertise and assistance. So as I said, AI can never replace doctors and healthcare professionals, but it will assist them decision making and higher accuracy and efficacy. Why? It can work 24/7. It will not take leaves. It works for 365 days. You put up a application to let us say TB detection or chest X-ray. It works 365 days. It works 24/7. Look at the second point: experience versus clinicians. So you learn certain things over a period of time, but with the support of AI, you gain all those knowledge and confidence. And certain areas, by seeing the symptoms, vitals, because we do a lot of studies, right? Like being we have seen healthcare examples. We might have done a lot of examples where with the healthcare data we do predictive algorithm. When we run through it, we'll come to know saying that yes, there is a chances of high BP for this patient if this patient's obesity level or some other parameters. With the combination of all, we can predict easily in a fraction of a second by just feeding the data. And it mainly this is therapeutic errors, because there are in US particularly, there are number of deaths happens due to wrong diagnosis and wrong treatment. So medical errors causing 251K, means 251,000 deaths due to medical errors, and heart, compared to the heart disease, it is a 611 K. So it's a huge. So, but when you have a defined, clearly tested out and validated a application, it delivers a result consistently. It will not throw any errors, even in whatever conditions you are tired, still it works, right? So that's the interesting point.
One question, Doc.
Yes.
How is the adoption of AI in the industry now, and what are the challenges faced? And next is, how is the success rate?
Okay. Industry, in the sense, I understand when we talk about healthcare, the participant is asking about a healthcare industry. Yeah, well, let me answer in keeping that, assuming that the participant is asking about the healthcare industry adaptation of AI. I feel like everybody thinking, like we have a lot of reports coming from the Big Four consulting companies. They do surveys from the chief executives and CIOs and CTOs across the globe and in India. Everybody, I think 9 out of 10 chief executives say that AI is one of the important parameter for us, and we wanted to experiment. We have some data available. When we go to that slide, we can go deeper. And everybody is believing, saying that if I should not miss this wave, then I'll be left behind. So let me start. So there are different stages of it. Particularly this question I'm parking there, we can cover there. So
Sure.
Adaptation is picking it up and it is going well. And yes, at the same time, challenges are there. Both points I would like to cover. I think by end of this session, we have some slides there. We can talk about it. I'll hold this question as well, and I'm noting down. So this question I'll cover there.
Sure.
So the new models in healthcare. Sorry. It's visible?
Yeah, it is. It is. Go ahead. It is.
Yeah. So this is again, once again, when we talk about AI in healthcare, I feel like one of the important starting point is the data. And when we say data, healthcare, it is again a big data. So I think Vishal will go for the whole here.
Sure.
Maybe it will be
First
relevant.
one?
This, yeah.
Sure. Audience, please respond.
Yes. So healthcare industry data volume in percentage with overall data. So we are given options. It's a 4.7 percentage. It's a 12 percentage. It's a 17.2 percentage. It's a 30 percentage. What do you think healthcare industry data volume in percentage with the overall data? Let us say that in the overall across the globe, we have collecting so many other data like manufacturing data, fintech data, and so many other things. What is the percentage do you think like healthcare industry contributes to?
Audience, some of you have not responded. Please respond.
Yeah.
We are talking about AI here, and it is heavily dependent on data, and the kind of responses you are giving is kind of data for us.
Yes, we can understand the what people think and what is the right data and all those things. A lot of useful stuff we can get.
So all have not responded. About 75% audience have responded. So I will show the results.
Okay.
So these are the results.
Okay. So people think it is a 17.2 and the next is 30 and 4.7. But if you look
Right.
at in what statistics says, like healthcare industry alone contribute to 30 percentage. 30 percentage of the data volume is contributed by the healthcare industry. Just think about the X-rays, MRI scans, EMR, EHR, our reports, hospital reports, discharge reports, surgery reports. Think of all those things: admission, discharge, insurance, claims. It is so much. So it's a big data. Yeah, Vishal, you can close this. Thanks for the participation. So from where it is coming? Big data in healthcare is like we continuously collect data from the wearable devices. It comes from the public records. It mainly comes from the electronic health records, social media, search engine, patient portals, research studies. All this contributes to the healthcare big data. And when you put a right approach to it, what is your objective? Is it you are trying to find out new treatment methods or a new diagnosing method, or trying to understand the pattern among the patients, are trying to find a new drug, whatever it is, you will have all the combinations available, then you can play with it, and then you can get that. But you need to have a right data with you. So this is when this is a broader picture in application of healthcare and AI, because each and every heading, I feel like it is a we can talk in one session. In a diagnosis, what treatment, analytics, CDSS, clinical decision support system, and devices in the sense I say it is a end devices, wearables, the monitoring devices and all those things, and drugs, medicines, and the care, pre-care and post-care, and the surgery. We can talk about it. Diagnosis. So think about a simple blood testing, pathology, whatever the pathologists they do. Now you can make use of AI to do that, or you can make the AI system to help them in quickly do the screening for hundreds of people, and then go to the particular patient or a particular case where the severity is high or more, whatever it is. We have detection like X-rays and AI everywhere. When you talk about AI in healthcare, people talk about TB detections, pneumonia detection. So using the chest X-rays, normally otherwise in order to take a do a TB detection, you take a X-ray, and the radiologist used to find out what is the issue in it. But when you are able to train thousands of X-rays with AI system, you are able to accurately predict the person is having a TB or not, the person is having a pneumonia or not. So think about a situation. I can tell you an example. For example, we were working for one of the projects where the government in one of the state governments in India wanted to drive. They wanted to make the particular state totally TB free, tuberculosis free state. So we were working with them in terms of how do we detect TB. You can say that yes, I am seeing everywhere TB detection is like even I can make it. Yes, it's possible. But thing is like, how do you do it for the masses? How do you do it in the remote environment? Because when you say TB, normally the government agencies, the government healthcare professionals, they do a lot of mass camps. They go to the tier 2, tier 3 level towns and villages, and they do camps. They wanted to screen people whether, because when you say that no, that particular state is high among all India state, and that particular district is trending on top in terms of TB cases, we don't have any other option to screen everyone like how we are doing in the COVID. So you get into the villages. The village is having around 2,000 people. So you go in a vehicle and a set of 2 assistants and 2 doctors and radiologists. How far it is possible to scan all those 2,000 people? If you follow a traditional method, and again the villages, you cannot make them standing in a waiting room from morning to evening. So that's where like solutions like AI assisted TB detection solutions will come handy, wherein the important thing in TB detection is like among the 2,000, let us say some 35 people are having a TB. You need to catch hold of those 35 people and then start interacting with them, register them for the further treatment and all. So in what happened earlier, like when they do X-ray and then they come out and they take they understand saying then who is having a TB or not, and when they go again, we don't have a chance to meet them again because they will be busy with some other activities and farming and all those things. So TB, the crucial point is like the moment you need to find out and you need to be in touch with that particular patient, talk about the TB to the patient, and then so that the treatment process can begin, and then you can successfully eradicate TB from that particular region. So that's where the AI systems, assuming that you have a TB detection AI engine is running, and the moment let us say the X-ray is taken, by the time the patient is coming out, you know that whether this is a positive or a negative cases. If it's a negative cases, we let them go. If it's in a positive cases, we ask them to stay back. So you are able to segregate.
What is CDSS here?
Clinical decision support system.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So you are able to segregate the crowd, the potential target people whom you need to follow up for treating the TB. It is possible only by AI-based TB detection techniques only. So that's where we can see the AI is doing wonders, and the similar programs kickstarting in everywhere. We can target this kind of chronic diseases, which is treatable if we are able to diagnose. Certain things are there, it becomes very complex, but certain diseases, how early you are able to detect, it becomes easier for you to treat them. And so diagnosis, we can talk about a lot of things. The fundus retinopathy from the retinopathy images, we can chest x-rays, pneumonia, and blood test, MRI scan. These are all the what we seen like x-rays and blood test. It is we can say in terms of complexity, it is simple actually. But when you think of MRI scan, it's a three-dimensional data. So you need to, each and every slices you need to understand. Even for the radiologist, and they take longer time when you happen to see how these scans are taken and MRI scans are taken. You know, like they take, even after taking the scan itself runs for hours, and then after that they take some time, longer time to understand and scan what is the abnormalities, if anything is there. So even that I'm talking about an experienced radiologist. So how do you, maybe a situation where you need to take a call quickly, whether what is the condition of the brain and due to the accident or some of the other complexities arised, some brain tumor or some blood tumor, whatever it is. So you need to take a call quickly, and you don't have time to analyze the entire stuff, but you need to do it in a very, very accurate and a very fast manner. That's where the AI-based MRI detection is coming to the play. Doing when we talk about deep learning and artificial intelligence and deep learning, when you start with cat or dog, you train thousands of cat images and dog images, and then you put a new fresh different test images, then you will be happy saying that I'm able to understand, my algorithm works fine, so I'm able to it is 100%, it gives the result saying that it's a cat. But the concept is same, but there are a lot of techniques. I think it is extensively discussed in other sessions, where how the medical computer vision, computer imaging solutions works, because you need to identify the subtle changes in that, in the image, that too very complex, and that too I'll have some slides where you will understand like how difficult it is to identify a particular organ in an abdomen area. When you look at liver, kidney, and pancreas, and so many other things are there and overlapping, you need to accurately find out which organ it is and what is the abnormality, and you need to understand saying that how what is the condition of it. So those areas, the AI-based solutions work very well, and it helps doctors and radiologists to take a
Doc,
quick call.
Doc, would you be able to give
Yeah,
some examples from blood test analytics?
blood test, I think, Vishal, it applies to all the blood tests, I can say, but yes, it is possible. Let us say that no malaria detection, or it is in any particular disease, or we need to understand the. I feel like entire the blood test. I think we are not from the medical profession, so we do not know the exact different departments how to. I feel like the entire biochemistry department, it is possible. Only thing is, that's what I'm saying, like when you do a mass detections in complex particular disease patterns, definitely it is possible. Histopathology, the blood stream, it is definitely it is possible. Maybe we in any disease, let us say that no, the biomarkers in a medical industry, we call it as the biomarkers, right? So you need to know saying that this is the biomarker, like if this is uh, existing in that particular substance, then we can say that this is a particular disease. If these values are this much, then we can say that the white blood cells are high, then we can say that it is some issues are there, there is some infections are there. So similarly, those things are called biomarkers. So wherever you have a clear distinction between the normal and the affected cells, and you have clarity in about the biomarkers, I feel like using the computer vision, it is possible. Or you take, that is one stage, that is in the raw abstract layer. We say that the data is collected, that has been tabulated. From the tabulated data, we can understand saying that these are all the values. I have some 30 column data. We have this much the combinations. Then from that we can identify the pattern, and then we can find out saying that no, this person is having a potential chances of having this particular disease. And treatment methods, analytics, again, that's what we talked about, analytics. So when you have collecting, when let us say there is a patient in ICU, you need to continuously monitor the blood pressure, the pulses, so many other parameters. And with the when we train this kind of algorithm with the known cases, when we have history of so much we have collected, from that we do annotation saying that no, this particular patient having a stroke at a particular time, during that time what was the parameters, how was it trending, and then previously before 1 hour what was happening. So we do a lot of training data, annotated data, saying that no, this is a stroke patient, this is a particular issue happened for the patient in such and such time. Then it becomes an automated solutions. So though the nurses will monitor the patient, but you will have assistive mechanism. The algorithm will work for you, and it will give you an early warning saying that no, there is a parameter difference. I could see a pattern in it, and why don't we take this particular test or call for a doctor? So it is saving a lot of patients. Before the particular severity occurs, we are able to detect that. How it is possible? We cannot make a doctor or a nurse to remember 10,000 cases or 50,000 cases of a particular instant, and then how do they behave in each and every moment of 24 hours. It was not possible. It was possible only by doing AI based solutions. It understands, it learn, and then it reproduce that particular the diagnosis. So clinical decision support system, we have seen devices, the wearable devices. So people are becoming health aware. They wanted to see that what is their pulse, how much distance they have walked, and what is the sleep pattern, interestingly. And these things are continuously monitored, and we can build an application, and it is there, existing applications are there. It will give you a green tick mark for you saying that yes, you have done necessary physical activity for the day and your pulse rate is standard, no issues. And when we say pulse rate, there may be related to so many other things, like we can talk about heart issues, or you can talk about hormonal imbalances, or there are in the medical domain, when we go deeper, using a particular parameter, we can detect multiple diseases. And it gives you a sleep pattern. It says then how much time you have taken a deeper sleep, how much time it is just you are lying down. So all these details you are able to get from the devices. This is on the healthy patients. When we talk about the patients who are admitted in a hospital, the parameters are connected, live machines, and you continuously monitor. And that's where it's very critical to quickly detect and share the results and alert the doctors. And drug discovery, AI based drug discovery is in a big chapter actually. So how the traditional drug discovery was happening, and then now how it was happening. Maybe Vishal, we'll open up the other poll. Hello, Vishal?
Yeah, sure. So
yeah,
you're talking about averaging, right?
This is of drug discovery. Yes, you are right.
Okay. Audience, please respond.
Yeah. So what do you think in average to develop a drug medicine for it? 6 to 9 months, 26 months, 5 years, 12 years. How much time it will take, let us say, a company like GSK or AstraZeneca? There are big companies, Johnson Johnson. If they wanted to develop a drug, how much time they take to develop this drug? Because these are all the very, very strong industries. It was happening in that fashion. That's where AI is making a big change that will transform the healthcare business across the globe. Benefit for the healthcare professionals, benefit for the patients, benefit for the governments, benefit for the communities. When you have, because when you have a healthy nation, you can progress well. When you need to fight with multiple diseases, you cannot progress, right? So to have a healthy nation, you need to detect and treat at the early stages.
So not everybody is responding again. About 75% voting.
Okay.
So some people are saying 10 years, which is not in the option.
Okay.
So close it here and show the results.
Please. Okay. So it's a mixed opinion. Some people feel that like this is, I think, maybe you may be right in some aspect, because it depends upon a particular, it may be a subcategory of your drug or medicine. But the standard, it is everywhere quoted, is like 12 years. 12 years it take for any company to develop a full-fledged new medicine, because it goes lab studies for several years. That is a preclinical. Then they check for human safety days, or it is again that we call it as in a phase 1, and then it is again they test with hundreds of people, that is phase 2, and then they test the efficacy and safety with the thousands of people, that is a phase 3. When they complete all these 3 things, a full-fledged new medicines, it takes 12 years. Because
so going by this question, I feel
yeah,
whoever
COVID.
is trying to make whoever is trying to make COVID vaccine will be maybe 50% chance that it succeeds. Right? It is
No,
not even
yeah,
an year when we are trying to get it out.
so the statistics is Vishal, like it was a traditional one where how they used to do that. That's what we are coming in like, and we are saying like the modern way of approaching the drug discovery using the artificial intelligence and deep learning techniques. I'm sure like all the top companies, I have the list, like all the companies. If you say top 50 pharmaceutical companies, they have their AI divisions, or they have acquired a company who's doing good job in AI. So that is the one of the major area. That's what I said. Drug discovery alone, we need to talk in a session saying that now how AI is helping drug discovery to reduce the timeline. So otherwise it takes 12 years, but not to worry. I think COVID with all the modern way of doing and AI and this is the one single most biggest problem in front of all of us. Multiple government and the companies joining together, sharing data. I think that way, yes, we can expect the good news at the earliest.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. You can close this. Yeah. So let me. So we have this devices, drug and care we have seen, and robotic surgery we know like certain complex surgeries. Many leading hospitals started deploying robots to execute that particular surgery. It gives a precision, accurate surgery in a. So these are all the major areas when you think of healthcare AI. We have seen this poll, and when you think of AI solutions, these are all the major industries: technology and IT, energy, professional healthcare, telco, and financial. Healthcare is equally on the top. Business impact using AI, because we know like in IT and other areas, they are making definitely now making use of AI for their business benefits. But equally, healthcare also doing great things. So how it is possible? This is just a quote. It has to be a human plus AI. It is not only I'm putting an AI solutions, then it will take care. It has to be a human supported. AI is supporting human, and then together they are trying to solve the solutions. So Paul, who is the Accenture chief executive, it's not going to. He says that it is not going to replace, but wherein it will amplify our skills and it collaborate with us to achieve productivity gains, which was not possible earlier. This we have seen as a poll. And now we move to the next stage, wherein we there are different type of AI solutions for healthcare, right? We have descriptive AI. What it does, it will understand what had happened. It will tell you saying that with the data, it will tell you saying that what happened in that particular case, right? And it quantifies events that have already occurred, and it uses this data to gain further insights. Because you need to when you know one data, you can relate to other another 2-3 parameters to get a full picture. It detecting trends and minor changes. Otherwise, we might tend to those data points might have escaped without this. So it will understand from the the past data what had happened. Another set of data, another set of solutions. I don't let us say that it's not a data, it's a solutions, descriptive things. There are solutions built to understand what has happened. And these are the predictive solutions. What could happen? So these are all the parameters coming in. What could happen in the future? So that's what we have seen this TB deductions. So these are all the if I could see a small tumor or in that X-ray, there is a high chance that it can be a dangerous one, or it has to be treated quickly. And we can understand from the heart rates, from the ECG signals. So there are a lot of examples we can keep on talking when we talk about predictive solutions. Sorry, this should be a prescriptive. There is a spelling mistake. Prescriptive, what it will tell you, it will say that what should we do, because this is where most of the efforts are going on now, and people are interested to really understand how we can make use of prescriptive AI. It is actually mimicking the brain to reduce cognitive load for humans, because it works as in fact as a human being, because healthcare is one of the most knowledge intensive among all industries. Yes, you need to have knowledge and skills in every industry to succeed, but this is very heavily knowledge intensive industry. So here, when you have all these smart solutions deployed, you can easily search, find, and present the clinical knowledge. Because when you talk about the clinical data, that particular subfield of that medicine, what is current trending across the globe or the last 5 years, 3 years in different regions, one has to go hundreds and thousands of journal articles and knowledge base to do that. So it becomes impossible to provide that superior knowledge to that healthcare professionals in a shorter time available in an affordable way. So that's where the prescriptive AI solutions are coming into the picture. And then with the trend, it will tell you saying that no, this is the case, you have to treat this patient in a certain way. It will tell you even the treatment method. That's the difference between predictive and prescriptive. Predictive, it will tell you saying that no, this is the trend, maybe he will get a stroke maybe in the next 2 hours. But prescriptive AI solutions will tell you saying that no, to avoid that stroke, what you should do. How does it learn? It learns from the past data, but how we have trained it from the hundreds and thousands of instances. When we train it, it understands and it provides you that. Drug discovery, we have seen that earlier. I think which subdomain of healthcare which is receiving highest participation are the work in progress. If you look at it's oncology, right? Like, because still we couldn't find a solution for it. It's a dangerous, it's a life-taking disease. It's a cancer, right? So oncology, that's where every company is trying to find a solution for it. So this is the data it says. Next one is the neurology. That's also very complex. Brain, neuroscience. Again, neuro AI is another big topic. Only with the brain and AI solutions, how are we from the MRI systems, from the various chemical changes happening at all the different parts of brain, how it is affecting the psychological behavior of the person. All these things are related to the neuro science. In fact, the Parkinson disease, what we were talking about, it is a neuroscience. The Alzheimer's disease, so people tend to forget, and schizophrenia, all the disorders, mental disorders, all these things related to the neuro. So that's where the neurology is taking the high count, and oncology. Next to oncology, there are other areas, infectious diseases. That's where people are, because again it is trending, so it keeps changing. So you need to continuously watch what's happening. So these are all the some of the samples. It's not a very elaborative one, because that's what I suggest. In case if you're interested, please go through the others detailed sessions about chest X-rays, about brain MRI. Vishal can guide you in terms of the other special session for these things. I can just quote one point here, because that's what I said. Understanding a cat or dog will be easier, but understanding a minute changes in that particular small region as highlighted in the yellow marker, it will be very, very difficult. So earlier it was like, with the experience, people used to identify. It's a qualitative and subjective. As with AI, it becomes a quantifiable, and once you do that, it becomes effortlessly reproducible. The lung cancer detections. So these are all the methods we do. And to highlight the importance of the particular changes, you will get this kind of beautiful heat maps. So you understand the severity of it, severity of the abnormality. Normal organ means what is that? If there is an abnormality seen, that too, which is affecting the person, how does it look? So you get to know. Then it becomes easier to dig deeper and understand the complexities of the particular disease. That's what we said. It is a reproducible. It works for 24/7. It easily knowledge is easily transferable. Look at the statistics. This particular case, it was hidden behind the heart. The lung cancer, it was behind the heart, so we were not able to detect it properly. With the abnormality score of 44%, when the same X-ray was given to 15 radiologists, only 7 people detected this. 8 people missed this particular point. Wherein, when it is given to the AI system, it is able to exactly predict this is what it is. This is the lung cancer nodule. It is, though it is behind the heart, but when you, with the training and with that algorithm, it was able to detect. So this is another case where case was missed by 9 out of 9 radiologists. They couldn't find that at all, but wherein AI was able to do that. So this is hidden behind the diaphragm, but still we could do that. So similarly, we know, like breast cancer detections, there are 2 methods in breast cancer detection: the traditional way and the new way. We know, like one of the leading organization like Niramai, they do a wonderful job in terms of diagnosing the breast cancer. They do, again, they also work on the computer vision and the image processing. But the way the X-ray is taken in the traditional method, they go with a different way. They use the IR video cameras to get the thermal images of the breast to detect the breast cancer. These are all the examples. That's what I said when I said, like, it understands the complexities. This is the pancreas. You need to understand where the pancreas is and what is the condition of it. When you have so much of complexities in the right hand side picture A, it is very difficult to understand what is that organ is, where it is exactly, what is the boundaries of it. But when you are able to put a right trained AI algorithm, it becomes easier. And then again, you can concentrate deeper, and then you can identify easily. So can we move to another poll, Vishal?
Sure.
I think the simple one, I think we'll give some simple.
Simplest one.
EMR in healthcare industry stands for electromagnetic receiver, EC monitoring rate, electronic medical records, emergency monitoring rate. What do you think? I think I should have mentioned some 5 to 10 times so far. So what is it? What is that EMR in healthcare? because when you are interested in AI, when you're interested in AI in healthcare, you wanted to apply your knowledge of deep learning, machine learning stuff to the healthcare. We need to understand, we need to have the domain knowledge. We are not doctors, but slowly let us understand at least some of the parameters, because then only you can provide solution to this healthcare profession, right? So that's the idea. But again, this is a very, very generic, as Vishal said.
I thought 100% people will respond to this, and people are responding in lesser numbers, surprisingly. So,
okay.
So I'll share the results here. About 70% have responded.
Okay. Perfect. I'm happy. So it is electronic medical records. 83% of the people could easily understand. It is EMR. It is, that's what it is. It talks about starting from the patient getting admission to the hospital, the treatment until they discharge, in even afterwards with the patient ID. Whenever you visit the hospital again, we'll get to know the particular, maybe the doctor, they can understand that particular patient's case history, what is the treatment method earlier followed, and how much time they have taken the medicines, what are all their existing reports, what are all their chief complaints, what is their vitals, what is their reports over the period of last 5 years, 6 years. Think about some operation, the person has underwent some operations. They need to regularly visit a hospital to ensure that things are normal and there is no infections and all. For that, you need to understand all the whole thing, what had happened, what conditions the patient got admitted, and each and every stages of it, surgery report, post-surgery report, discharge report. It is possible only through electronic medical records when you have a system. But records in India is it's picking up. It is there, and the leading hospitals are doing it, but it is not available for all the people, and people are slowly doing it. Wherein in the Europe and US, it becomes a mandatory, and then only all those claims and insurance are possible. So their rate is beyond 80-85 percentage, but ours still we are picking it up. That's what I said, like more and more healthcare companies, like even in like us, we are educating and making the simpler EMR solutions, so that the adaptations becomes easier for the doctors and hospitals. Otherwise, when you give a complex solutions to the people, even if it is in a mandatory things, people will not do that. So when you make it as simple and then you make their life simpler, then automatically the adaptation rates goes high. So that is EMR. Thanks, Vishal. You can please close this. I think we'll come to the challenges. We know data, particularly data collection in artificial intelligence, is tough stuff. Tough. There are a lot of privacy issues. You cannot just like that take the particular patient data and then share it with the different researcher or the industry people to do some research, because a lot of things, because it is about personal, right? Like a name and your credit card details, your health data is very, very personal. So people cannot play with that. So, but still, when all the AI solutions so far what we talked about, it needs some data. It needs annotated data. If these are all the parameters, what kind of effect, what is the disease, and if this medicine, how it is responding. We need all the data. Then only we can build AI solutions which can automate, and it can be helpful for the healthcare professionals. So there are methods. So you need to anonymous, you need to make the data anonymous, like separate the person name and important parameters from that, only keep the vitals, and then you need to keep certain formats. There are a lot of standards when you get into the medical industry. There are, for medicines, some standards are there, some diseases names, ICD-10, SNOMED, and there are so many other standards to mark a particular disease, to mark a particular medicine. So you need to follow those standards and make the data interoperable, so that you be the healthcare provider and you wanted to collaboratively work with the pharmacist, you wanted to collaboratively work with the drug manufacturers, how is the effect of that particular drug. In case if you need to, all the team need to understand the data and make use of it, you need to be on a same standards. You need to call a particular column the similar way how other people are calling. You need to store it in a certain format. So all these things are necessary. There are a lot of standards available. Ministry of Health and World Health Organization, and there are a lot of global health institutes which provides guidelines how you should use that, how you should collect, store, process, and exchange information between different people. So that is possible. And there are compliance like saying that, no, you might have heard HIPAA compliance, GDPR, and all. HIPAA is predominantly in the US, and GDPR is General Data Protection in Europe. These standards primarily talk about what is the general guidelines about using personal data, medical data, how do you exchange, how you should, how you ensure the there is no misuse of that particular data. You will get a lot of guidelines from this. When you try to build a solutions, you should go through it. Challenges again, this, yes, and the adaptation. Even then, one is data, and then you need to have a algorithm built. To build the algorithm, it is a combination of AI engineers, data scientists, and the domain expert. Let us say it is a together, only we can make a very good product which can be adopted directly. As a standalone, I have a wonderful algorithm, it will not work. I know the medical industry, that alone won't work for AI solutions. So you need to have a combination of all the people, all the 3-4 set of people need to work together to find out the solutions. So that is again a challenge. So getting the expert, let us say that you are running a AI company and you have some better solutions, you identified as great solutions, you have a data points, with that you done a POC, and you wanted to make it and take it to the next stage, and you want to do a trial, even then there is a problem. So unless, because as I said earlier, we are playing with the human life, so nobody want to take a chance. So when we deploy solutions, we have a lot of parameters, like how the algorithm is doing, right? ROC curves, positive, negatives, false positive, false negatives. You need to fulfill all those parameters, accuracy parameters, define, demonstrate consistently again and again, and then people will believe, and then compare with the ground truth. Okay, and let me put the solution, and my AI solution, this is throws, it's a positive case among the 10, 3 out of 10 cases. Then let us give the same parameter to the experienced doctor, and let us ask them to validate that. They also said that among the 10 cases, yes, there are 3 cases having, in the same 3 cases they are also finding, means yes, your algorithm is working. That's where it is verification with the ground truth. But you need to do this again and again, multiple times over a period of time, and then it is a continuous learning process. That's where it works.
So
And
what
then,
are your Doc, what are your views on national health ID coming in future by government? Will that help?
sorry, Vivek.
Yeah, question is, what are your views on national health ID coming in future by government?
I think it is a very good initiative. Everywhere it is there, and we were thinking like Aadhaar was it's a complex solutions. How do you manage 130 crore people Aadhaar? But over a period of time, we could achieve that. And
But
think about
my counter question to
yeah.
that would be, as you are mentioning Aadhaar, that Aadhaar was a mandatory identification document earlier, but now even banks say Aadhaar alone will not do. So you will have to give your PAN number and things like that. So do you think National Health ID will be any good, or it will meet the same fate as Aadhaar has?
No, I think Aadhaar, it's a mixed opinion. We cannot totally discount it. In some areas, maybe there are a number of things the government agencies and district management, state level organizations and different departments may handle the data in terms of taking the benefits to the people, to the masses, to the bottom of the pyramid. They are making use of it. And if you definitely any solutions, if you use it in the right cause, it works. Similarly, when you have this health ID available, because again, those initially I showed the statistics saying that the number of doctors and nurses per 1,000 people, it is very less for us. So we do not have so much of luxury in terms of analyzing and identifying clusters of particular disease, or how when it is when this kind of solutions comes in, you clearly know saying that what has happened for that particular patient, and it reduces, I think more than 50%, it reduces the pain in terms of understanding the past records of the particular patient, in terms of again the illiteracy rate. We cannot expect everybody is having their data available, but when this kind of common solutions comes in, then it becomes just say that and it in a secure way. I'm saying underlining those words, secure way, with a proper strategy and framework. Definitely it is going to useful for various segments, healthcare professionals, researchers, government agencies, policy makers, and the benefits, many departments. These are the major segment of people, but I personally feel it is very good thing we can expect if we implement it in a right way.
Okay. Thanks.
So we said when we wanted to start AI, there are passive people. These are all the adaptation and knowledge level. They have less knowledge and they don't want to adopt quickly. So they will be trending around this percentage, 32%. They are waiting, and someone wanted to investigate because they got a knowledge, but they don't want to adopt. But they're just checking what is happening. And some people are experimenters. They wanted to start piloting POCs, and wherever it is possible, maybe in diagnosis, treatment, devices, drug discovery, wherever it is possible, they already started experimenting. These are people are pioneers who are taking what is happening in the industry. They are trying to pick it up, and then they know that the benefits and the power of AI, and they started doing it. So under this category, which category you wanted to fall, it depends on, because it depends on, like, you need to adopt, you need an investment, you need to have a knowledge didn't come. Knowledge comes along with the people, so you need to have a set of people. It's a big story there. So you need to have a right set of people and the leadership and the investments, and then definitely you can do that. So that's what I said. It's not about technology. It's about people, process, culture, and strategy. It's a redefining relationship between a human and machine. We don't see it as in a separate entities. When we put the right things in a place, right process, right set of knowledgeable people, and bring in an innovation culture, and do a right strategy in the sense, when you are working in this kind of cutting edge new technologies, you cannot expect saying that, no, I'll make a plan, 3 months plan, and then next 9 months I need a product. Because you need to work in agile way, you need to work in a DevOps models. So you would just prepare in a small MVP, and then test it out. If it works out, and then take it to the bigger product. So there is a strategy. So that kind of strategy you need to follow to bring out a best products. So this question may be interested for the business people. How I can make AI to get return on investments. So we discuss this. First, integrate AI into business strategy, and don't just think of cost reduction. Think about revenue maximization, right? Then you can aim bigger numbers. And sometimes you need to take a big risk. Else, when you take small risk, you will get a small returns. You take a big risk, calculated risk, but then definitely you get a greater gain. So that's what I said. It's a collaboratively with the business and process owners, domain experts. Let us say when it is a healthcare, it should not be okay, I have a world best data scientist and deployed some 10-15 people to the particular project. Will it work? No. You need to have a domain expert. You need to have different the environment. Like I say, you need to have a data engineers. You need to have database administrators. You need to have a DevOps people. You need to have a front end, back end team. What is the latest technologies available in web development, mobile development, in Android, iOS? You need to have all these things, and cloud computing. Very, very importantly, all this combination you need to have, and you need to think about as a business transformation. It's just not as some work. You need to think about how I am going to using AI, how I am going to transform the business. That's the way you need to think. And more importantly, you need to recruit right person. You need to skill and reskill continuously, and then put a right governance process. Because we always talk about the ethics, explainable AI, ethics in AI. No, you should not have a biases and all those things. You need to have a careful idea about setting up a ethical AI solutions or a without biases. So providing a right set of combination of data sets, so that your AI solutions not biasing anyone with the kind of diagnosis or treatment or whatever it is. When you have all these things, definitely you can build a wonderful product. So that's what. So it is a combination of the strategy, the people, process, and technology, and then this is adapted from the BCG 6-step plan. How do you bring in return on investment from AI? So definitely any business person who's thinking of particular solutions for the healthcare industry can make use of it. So with that, Vishal, we'll go to the last question poll. This is that I expect so far whatever the people have understood, we can ask that question. Which subfield? I think we discussed about multiple areas. Which subfield of healthcare AI need more data scientists? Because we are a data scientist, right? We are a data scientist community. We always wanted to see that where is the benefit in healthcare? Because healthcare, we know it is really doing well across all the industries. But among the healthcare, which part? Because again, it's a vast area. When you get into understanding different drugs, you need to go through some 50 journal papers. What is the drug discovery? How is the traditional discovery is happening? What is the recent developments in using AI to make the drug discovery? Now, I think 50 journal is less. You need to have hundreds of journal papers and seminars and lectures to understand that. Similarly, the diagnosis, data analytics, edge devices. So what do you think? Which subfield of healthcare AI need more data scientists?
So about 50% only responding. Audience, please respond in totality. Only 50% has responded till now.
Okay.
And more going towards diagnosis.
Okay, then we'll close it, and It's time also running
Okay.
out. So
75%. I'll close it here. Thank you all. Response is this.
drug discovery, diagnosis. Yes, that is the one of the biggest domain. That's where we talked about all the AI solutions, data analytics, edge devices. I think because we feel like it's deployed, so it is automated kind of. That's why people didn't think of edge devices. Otherwise, I think the opinion it reflects the trend in the industry. Like we have a lot of solutions working in diagnosis. Drug discovery is picking it up. I'm sure like drug discovery will surpass the diagnosis, and data analytics always it has to be there, whatever may be the conditions. Thank you, Vishal. You can close this, and I'm also completing the session almost, and maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions, and we can close it off.
You said drug discovery will surpass diagnosis?
Because the way I just compared the amount of money pumping in terms of drug discovery and the kind of companies working in. It's my personal opinion. I feel like it is having a huge scope to make use of AI to find more drug discoveries or fine tuning it further and all those things.
So
yeah.
the question has come again. The first question, I think. Can you tell what features you targeted in speech analysis for a Parkinson's patient?
Okay, right. The Parkinson disease, we have, for example, we record the patient voice, and that voice we process it using our deep learning techniques, and we understand the pattern. Again, Parkinson disease patient, when the person is not as I said, it's a neurodegenerative disease. It affects the movements, it affects the voices, facial recognition, facial expressions, and it affects your voice as well. You cannot have a free flow talk, but it goes in a certain way. This kind of methods are already there in terms of finding out a person's ability to speak, and there is any speech related issues, therapies, and all those things. The similar methods, but it understands the pattern. Similarly, as usual, like deep learning, we take a sample normal people and Parkinson people with a different early stage, very early stage, and serious means like advanced status, and younger generation, younger age group, and elder. Combination of all the data, and thousands, hundreds and thousands of data has been trained, understand the pattern, and then we could find whether this is the Parkinson disease or not, the particular patient is having a Parkinson disease or not. So that's the way we do. But I know I'm not covering any detail, but I can help if the participant is interested. We can help, because that is research in undergoing. So up to a level, I can discuss with the participants on one-on-one.
Okay. Another question is approaches followed for the data collections. How it is done currently by companies? Can you please elaborate more, as we understand that it has some privacy concerns? And
That's
where
what.
to start as a new level in AI?
Correct. So let us say that chest X-rays, you have a solutions, and but you have a solution to differentiate with maybe, because you will have some open data set, you might have done some basic studies, and then you know to differentiate if it is a tumor or not, or it is in a which area I need to concentrate on all those things. Maybe, yeah, definitely you might have done a wonderful algorithm which quickly detects, but that has to be trained with real use cases, real data. So you need to have maybe just you all might have checked in the open data sets. We will have, wherever we go, GitHub or open internet or Kaggle.com, you will have the same set of X-rays, which some good means like organization, they have shared it already. That is alone, it is available. You will not see so frequent new data, because that's what it is privacy issues, right? So you cannot say that. So someone, that's what nowadays a lot of the organization, government organization and healthcare organization and ministry, they are coming out and forming some institutions and an NGO kind of organization where the information exchange between different hospitals, different research institutes, different scientists, they are making a centralized repository or centralized gateway bus kind of like you, so you can plug in and try to take, and then you can make use of the data. Also, it's a kind of a federated learning. You have, right, you know, right, in a deep learning you will have a federated learning where your data lies with you, and the computing, you share that data with the central repository for the overall computing. But at the same time, nobody knows that saying that this set of segment data has come from this particular cluster or not. All the data is getting accumulated in a central place, and that is good for with annotated data, but nobody knows it is related to the particular cluster or particular institute's data. So federated learning is picking it up, and that is again interesting topic in the modern deep learning systems. So with all the precautions you need to do, and there is no one rule fit for all, depending upon that organization, depending upon that particular disease, the data collection varies. But overall, it is a simple, this is a complex way of explaining it. A simple way is like, ensure that you don't misuse the data. That's all done. So if you could provide that kind of trust to your partners to collect the data, definitely you will have, the doors will be open for you to collect data and then to make use of algorithms. Is that answers, Vishal? What do you think?
Okay. So can you share some of the progress made in the prescriptive AI in healthcare? Currently, how well the progress done on the prescriptive AI and future directions?
Yeah, prescriptive, that's what we have seen, like it is more than predictive and normal, simple, descriptive. So that's what I said. It is a knowledge intensive industry, so it may not be so easy for everyone to understand the experiences, to collect the experience in a shorter time. That's where the prescriptive AI is coming into the play. Again, prescriptive AI, when we say, it is not again somewhere it has come from the sky. Again, those prescriptive AI is being developed and designed by us. So we are developing, right? We say that no, this is the when you find the parameters, you alert. So this is the predictive. And prescriptive also, again, to make a predictive, the data points, let us say if it is an 10,000, for example, something, there is no straightforward. For prescriptive, we might need 25,000 data points because you need to test it in various scenarios. So only, again, that what I'm trying to say is like prescriptive AI also defined and designed by us how you should answer in a certain situation after seeing this parameter. We are making the machine more intelligent in terms of while feeding more accurate context specific data and fine-tuning the algorithm, and we can test it. We can put it in real-time conditions where some things are happening, the patient is about to get a particular kind of and the issues or something, parallelly you can monitor and say that, then you can verify that your system is able to suggest or not. So I can say that like it is more rich, more complex, and more effort you need to put to make the prescriptive AI. Yeah, Vishal,
So
I think we are running out of time. So
yeah, just one last question if anybody wants to ask. We are almost there. Going to be 2 hours, 10 minutes less. We thought we'll finish early. So if anybody wants to connect, these are the coordinates. Although he's very busy, but if you mail him with a subject line that you attended this webinar, probably he'll respond as soon as he gets time.
yeah, Vishal, definitely. I have. It's a AI community, and part of our this AI community. Definitely, whatever knowledge we could share to each other, it's a continuous learning process. I'm also
Right.
continuously learning day by day, so definitely we can do that. I think Vishal, I think we have the no more questions coming in, and
Yeah.
then we can conclude. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to meet up with the CellStrat members and AI community members through this webinar session. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much for organizing these polls so that in between people are also be participating in that. And thanks a lot. Thank you all participants. We'll meet
Most
again.
welcome.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all, and good night to all in India, and good day to across the world.
Yeah.